is a uh, is working for the government. He before joining the Department of Veterans Services, Dan led the Veterans and Employers Connection in partnership with Good Easter Seals in Miami, and he is also now working for the veterans. And I'm going to turn it over to you, Dan. Dan, it's all yours.
Alrighty, I'm going to switch over and share my screen. Okay. All right, Al, I think you might have to enable participant screen sharing. There we go. All right, at this point, you should see some slides. The first thing is, as Tony mentioned, I'm Dan Semsel. I'm the workforce consultant for the Ohio Department of Veterans Services for Western Ohio. And what I'm going to do is kind of talk a little bit about what the Department of Veterans Services does, and then hit some of the things from my perspective on the workforce side. I'll do a little introduction to myself as we get rolling along here. There's a lot of reasons that we started this program, and one of the primary reasons is Ohio's got a very substantial veteran population. And we wanted to make some inroads in finding ways to help attract more veterans back to Ohio and put the veterans in the state of Ohio to work. So as I said, I've got a little bit of background on myself. I'm from Ohio originally, grew up in Athens, Ohio. My dad was a teacher at Ohio University, and I ended up going to Ohio University for college. Main reason is because Dad was faculty, I had a full tuition break, and money talks. But I bleed green and white very, very proudly. I spent 25 years in the Air Force. My career field was logistics. I retired as a logistics officer as the vice commander at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. The needs of the Air Force late in my career brought me home to Ohio, which was kind of nice. And over the course of my career, we had 12 assignments, so we moved a little bit more frequently than the average military veteran did during a course of a regular career. I also deployed 5 times. I spent 4 tours in the Middle East and 1 tour in Central and South America over the course of my career. I started back in the Desert Storm days, back in the early 90s, deployed to Southern Watch. Then I spent time both in Iraq and Afghanistan after 9/11. For the 3 years after I retired, I spent that creating a program to help putting veterans with special needs to work with Goodwill Easter Seals Miami Valley. And it gave me a chance to really put my pulse on my fingers on the pulse of the veteran population here in the greater Dayton metro area. And then I moved over to the Ohio Department of Veterans Services back in October of 2016 when we started the program that I'm part of now. So here's a little rough overview of what the Ohio Department of Veterans Services has laid out. We are a direct cabinet agency working under the governor. Our current director is Debbie Ashenhurst, who's a retired 2-star general who was with the Ohio National Guard before she retired and ended up getting asked by the governor to come back and serve as his chief of veteran services, as the director of the Department of Veteran Services. We've got a couple of different roles. Our primary roles are, I'll start first with our veterans homes. We manage 2 veterans homes, which basically provide levels of care to veterans from Ohio, ranging from independent living facilities for folks that are still capable of handling their own needs, all the way through standard care that you'd find in a nursing home, and skilled care as well. And finally, memory care for veterans who have issues with dementia or Alzheimer's. So these are full service veterans homes that we run in the state of Ohio. One of them in Sandusky is the larger facility, then the facility down in Georgetown is a little bit smaller. The secondary role we have is the Veteran Services Support, and this is where we provide the collateral support to various agencies across the state. Some of those roles I'll get into with a little more detail, but the bottom line is this is a little bit more where we're dealing directly one-on-one with the entire veteran population of the state. I highlighted the workforce team in yellow. That is where my program itself falls. When we talk about the state approval agency, I'll go into more detail with what that is, but the bottom line is it's a way for employers to tap into GI Bill benefits that our veterans bring to the table. The education and compliance side of the house helps our county veteran service offices as they perform their missions. The policy and veteran programs, where our program falls under, deals directly with the legislative side of the house, as well as the workforce side of the house, supporting veterans in Ohio. And the Office of Communications deals with strategic communications to promote Ohio as a destination for veterans, as well as providing information to our veterans about the benefits that they are entitled to and issues affecting them in the state. My program on the workforce side of the house is to teach Military 101 to the employers of the state of Ohio. It's the easiest way to put it, because we found over time that generally 75 to 85% of the HR professionals out there have never worked directly with the veteran population, and they don't have a military background to understand what the veterans bring to the table. So what we're trying to do is provide a facilitated service to our employers by teaching them about the value of a veteran, military culture, breaking down some of the myths and misconceptions about veterans as employees, helping them outreach to military spouses, dealing with benefits. And the bottom line is, with the more veteran savvy our employers are, the easier it is for veterans to find jobs. We do this in conjunction with Ohio Means Jobs, who actually puts veteran job seekers in front of an employer seeking a veteran. Our secondary roles are providing outreach and support to veteran employee resource groups within the various employers across the state of Ohio. If they have a veteran employee resource group in their organization, we want to make sure they understand the benefits that are available to them. And finally, we provide outreach and support to employers that are looking to find veterans by providing direct links of their position vacancies to the agencies out there that put veterans to work. On the state approval agency side of the house, we've realized that the GI Bill benefits are a game changer for our veteran population. The post 9/11 GI Bill provides a cost of living stipend for veterans that are going to the schools, whether it's a 2-year school or 4-year school. But we've also found that it applies to apprenticeship and on-the-job training programs as they progress. The bottom line is, if the program provides a sufficient level of training and detail, it doesn't need to be your classic 2-year or 4-year institution to qualify for GI Bill benefits. The bang for the buck here comes into that cost of living stipend, because when somebody starts out in a skilled trade as an apprentice, they're getting paid apprentice wages. The cost of living stipend provided by GI Bill benefits to eligible veterans covers a certain amount of cost of living expenses over each month. An example of this is, I'll use a student veteran at Ohio State University is going to pull a stipend of $1,400 a month beyond their tuition, their fees, and their books. That same kind of cost of living stipend is based on the veteran, basically where they're living. So in Lima, in Oxford, Ohio, in Columbus, in Toledo, it can change based on locality. But if a veteran is going through an apprenticeship program to become a plumber, they can tap into that cost of living stipend while they're under their GI Bill benefits, as they learn, with those benefits fading over time as they gain experience towards becoming a journeyman. So we basically look at generally 10,000 to 24,000 veterans and dependents every month are tapping into this GI Bill benefit. We're putting together a lot of different money that goes out to the various sources of education. Now, the easy part about that, before I dive into our veteran service offices, is we do the work. We will, if an employer says we want to put our new employees through a 6-month intensive learning program to become fully qualified in their job, we can go down and assess if that learning program qualifies those veteran employees for that GI Bill benefit. So we'll work one-on-one with a given employer if they have an on-the-job training program or an apprenticeship program to make sure that we've crossed the T's and dotted the I's. We want to make sure that folks can tap into this benefit, because veteran fully trained that's supporting their family while they're a trainee becomes a valuable employee that much quicker. One of the other roles of the Department of Veteran Services, we provide guidance and support to the county veteran service offices. Every county has a veteran service office. It may range when you get up to some of the small rural counties like Williams County or Fulton County, it may be a 1 or 2 person shop supporting the veterans of each county. I want to say Williams County has roughly 1,100 veterans in the county. So we want to make sure that they've got that direct belly button at the county level that can help support their needs. These needs may range from emergency financial support, information on applying for benefits, tapping into resources that are available within the community to provide support. We wanted to put this down as close to the veteran population as we could. So every county has a veteran service office, and each county can evaluate their own needs to support the veterans of that county. So this is a little bit of the roles of the veteran service offices. And as I mentioned before, this is a county specific thing. An example would be Montgomery County with the RTA does not need to provide direct transportation for veterans to the VA to meet medical appointments, but they can provide bus tokens and bus passes for veterans to use the existing transportation capabilities to cover those needs. But if you drive around on the highways, every now and again, you'll see some of the vans from the outlying counties that don't have a mass transit system like RTA, where they will actually provide transportation to the Dayton VA Medical Center or the Lima Community-Based Outreach Center, or Springfield has one as well, or to one of the other VA medical centers. We want to make sure our veterans can get to the VA that services their region. On top of that, they provide access to the, as I mentioned before, the various benefits that our veterans are entitled to. When we talk about the veteran population, I mentioned earlier, it's significant. Ohio is the 6th most populous state for veterans in the country, which is surprising. Florida, Texas, California are the top 3, and there's multiple bases for multiple branches of services in those states. Ohio, New York, and Pennsylvania are the next 3. And generally, we in Pennsylvania, depending on the given month, float between 5 and 6. North Carolina is gaining quickly in veteran population with some of the recent workforce expansion in that state. The top 5 counties, not surprisingly, are urban counties: Cuyahoga County, Montgomery County, Hamilton County. When we look at the veteran population in the state, 1/6 of the entire veteran population is in a 4-county region, which is Montgomery, Hamilton, Warren, and Butler counties. That's the largest, most dense population of veterans in the state. The numbers, unfortunately, are a little dated, and we're waiting to get the latest numbers from the Bureau of Labor Statistics on unemployment for our veteran population. But we've been doing very well over the last couple of years. We're floating generally for veterans, the unemployment rate's been below that of the average population. Our veterans around here, we track them in Ohio Means Jobs to help them find jobs. We look at the folks that identify themselves as veterans and see who's in the workforce looking for new positions. We try to identify as much as we can about the demographics of those veterans, what their skill sets are, what their education level is, what career fields they came from. We want to help promote them as valuable employees. We also find, I mentioned earlier, the GI Bill benefits. We find that we've got almost 25,000 right now, roughly 23,000 students using GI Bill benefits to go to school within the state of Ohio. And finally, we've got a decent number of folks that are serving in Ohio National Guard. Recently, the Ohio National Guard's been activated to provide support for the virus relief efforts, has been augmenting the food banks, and in some cases, some of the medical facilities to help provide distribution of supplies and equipment to the greater community. The Ohio National Guard is a state asset unless activated for active duty orders. We've got roughly 16,000 guardsmen and women across the state. Now, we try and set a lot of things up to make this attractive as a state for our veteran population. One of the reasons we try and do this is, again, I want to get veterans to come home to Ohio. We've got a great standard of living here, great cost of living here. And right now, the state motto is find it here. And there's no reason we can't bring more veterans back to Ohio. We like to let the employers know that there's incentives for bringing on veterans. If you hire a veteran with disabilities, you could potentially be getting up to $10,000, about $9,600 off your tax liability at the end of the year. There's incentives on the work opportunity tax credit for hiring veterans with disabilities. We also have advantages for employers that hire reservists and National Guard members. If their employees get called to active duty while they are a member of the Guard or the Reserve, as long as the employer is paying the wages, they can get a tax credit off the back end, up to $4,000 for each employee that's a member, as long as they're paying the wages. The idea is to offset, to make it a little bit less painful if your employee gets called to active duty during their time of service, to try and compensate for some of the financial impact that being pulled away from your primary job can have. And finally, we have programs through the VA, the Special Employer Incentive Program. This is a program that takes those veterans who have challenges, whether it's disabilities or other issues, that helps cover their salaries and gets their feet on the ground. Bottom line is we want to make sure that getting into the job isn't a barrier in itself. We want to provide the tools they need, the uniforms they need, the clothes they need. This is a great opportunity for some of our homeless veterans or veterans who've come out, in some cases, who've been on the wrong side of the criminal justice system. We want to give them opportunities to get a foot back up and to try and get back on firm standing. This program through the VA helps them in that regard by covering part of the salary and covering a lot of the startup expenses for an employer as they come on board. And at the federal level, the Department of Labor started a program called the Medallion Program to recognize those employers that make a difference for our veteran population. These are firm criteria. A lot of people want to say they're veteran friendly. This program through the Department of Labor basically puts teeth to the tiger. It establishes criteria on veteran employee base, as well as retention programs, support programs, and recruiting programs that an employer has to meet to qualify for this award. And one of the last tools that we have going on right now at the federal level is the DoD Skills Bridge, the Department of Defense Skills Bridge program. This is a way to take a current military member within 6 months of their separation or retirement and put them to work, almost on a try as you buy is the best comparison I can come with. They can go work for an employer while still getting paid by the Department of Defense, so they can learn the job and find out if they're going to be a good fit. This is an opportunity that an employer can recruit a potential candidate and see how they're going to actually integrate into the workforce. Are they going to bring the skills they need? Are they going to adapt to the organizational culture? And how will things work? So it's almost, you can consider it almost as an apprenticeship program from a military aspect. If somebody comes out of the military, 6 months of experience with GE Aviation now can bring them on board and knowing that they understand a little bit more about the industry as opposed to coming in cold. The nice part about this is there's no cost to the service member when it comes through it. Basically, they get released from their position while they're on active duty to go to work for the employer. The catch is the employer has to commit to training them to a way that they meet a standard on graduation. Basically, you finish this program with your appropriate company and you're almost guaranteed an opportunity to go on with that company. You're 100% guaranteed that you'll get an interview. And these are kind of just a quick rundown of where the program lies. The other thing we like to try and tap into, and this is a market that we're just really starting to hit, it's a military spouse market. In the state of Ohio, the biggest population of military spouses, not surprisingly, is right around the greater Wright-Patterson area. That's where the primary number of military members are, so that's where the spouses are. Nationally, even though the government, even though we've done very well with helping the veterans find jobs over the last few years, we're behind the power curve when it comes to the spouses. Still 1 in 4 military spouses is unemployed. So we try and highlight this to the employers as a whole other market that they can reach into. And the best part about that is if you bring a spouse on board, eventually the military member is going to separate or retire. You can potentially get that person to come on board as well. So what we've done is created tools in Ohio Means Jobs and other aspects to help the employers find the veterans. For a veteran, if a veteran hangs their resume on Ohio Means Jobs, it's going to get recognized with a red, white, and blue V. All of the veteran resumes, it's almost like a virtual front of the line privilege that our veterans receive in the job centers. They can get it online as well. It just doesn't mean they're the most qualified candidate. It just shows the veterans, but you'll see veteran resumes first with a red, white, and blue designated V designator to show that they are a veteran. We also created a Veteran Business Support Center out of Columbus, which basically does the data mining for the employer. If an employer says, I'm looking for an electrician with 6 years experience, they send that information to the Veteran Business Support Center, and the specialists there will do the data mining of resumes in the area for people that meet those qualifications, and then push them directly to the employer. It saves time for the employer, saves time particularly for the small business that may need just a one deep position, while at the same time helps promote our veterans and capabilities. So we recommend for folks, that they register as a military-friendly employer on Ohio Means Jobs and tap into some of the skills and programs that we have to help them reach the veteran population, looking for that red, white, and blue V. Now, why does all this matter? I mean, it matters because our veterans face a lot of challenges when they enter the workforce. Over the course of a military career, you don't do a resume to change jobs. You don't have to do an interview. You get a set of orders that are going to send you to your next job. And they're going to tell you who you're going to work for, what your position is going to do, who's going to work for you. And you can pretty much expect to be there for 3 years before your next set of orders comes down the pipes. So a lot of times we do this fantastic job of painting the picture of what a veteran brings to the table, but our veterans come out of the service with high school level job seeking skills because they haven't had to go through the interview process or the resume process. So they don't tell their story well. The second thing our veterans realize is they don't understand what they're worth. If when I was stationed in North Dakota, if my kids got a cold, I took them to the base clinic. There were no co-pays, there was no insurance, and none of that stuff went down the pipe. That came with military service, but one of the biggest costs, one of the biggest compensation beyond pay that an employer can provide is a healthcare program. So these are things that our veterans don't really understand what they're worth, and they think they jump into a job, they compare their paycheck versus their military pay when they take a job with a new employer, and then they find out that a lot of times they've left themselves short because they didn't have to cover health care. They had discount child care on base. They could shop tax-free on the base at the base exchange. So a lot of that's that it's almost invisible compensation to our military members while they serve in the military doesn't translate till they get to the civil sector, and that creates a challenge. And finally, we found that basically 1 out of every 2 veterans that left a job left for cultural reasons. They left because they didn't feel like they related to their mission, to their coworkers, or to the company as a whole. And that's one of the things that brings a lot of people into the military in the first place, is that culture of belonging. So that's what a lot of veterans seek when they leave the service, and when they find out that some of the places, some of the employers out there want a veteran who it's all about the numbers, deliver X number of sales or deliver X number of capability. It's not about you as a person anymore. We see veterans leaving employers for that reason. Culture matters for a veteran. They're looking for that sense of belonging, that sense of value to stay with an employer. So when we talk about culture, Al, this is probably not a shock to you at all. This is going to be a little bit, as a veteran, I'm not sure. Tony, I think you've got some time under your belt too, don't you?
Yes, 3.5 years out
Yeah.
as a captain in Vietnam.
Yeah, so this is a little bit of a rundown. This is kind of the stuff we cover when we talk about military culture. For the folks that don't know it, I went and talked to the Western Ohio Human Resource Association, and out of 25 people in the room, there was not a single one that ever served in the military, nor did any of them have an immediate family member that served in the military. So when we talk military culture 101, we're trying to teach these employers basically the value of rank. And this is one of the things that is tough for our veterans to understand, because when they leave the military, you get paid, and your value is based on the number of stripes on your sleeve or the ornamentation on your collar. When in the civil sector, it's based on your skill set. So we try and teach a lot of the stuff, basically the difference between officer and enlisted, what the pay grades mean, and try and cover things down. We also like to show the employers that when you talk about the military, if you look at the commercials out there, you watch an Ohio State game, and somewhere in there, you're going to see that Marine Corps commercial with a bunch of Marines jumping out of an armored personnel carrier running towards a village in conflict. Looks like a village in Southwest Asia. The reality is only about 15% of our military members are combat skill sets. You see those same kind of skill sets, the same percentages, and you talk about the number of people in engineering and construction. Al, that should be near and dear to you, given your background. But Same number of folks in the engineering career fields, construction career fields, same number of folks in the transportation logistics career fields where I come from, vehicle and machine mechanics. We have a lot of different skill sets that come from the military service. We do an evaluation of folks before they enter the service, come up with an idea of what their main skills should be, and we try and match. I mean, it's kind of silly because if you talk to a lot of people, they wonder where the match comes up, but we try and do a little bit of a skills match before people enter the military service to determine their career fields. But the bottom line is folks from the military are bringing a lot of specialized technical knowledge to the table when they come in. It goes back to the being able to tell the story. An incredible training program, probably one of the most detailed and impressive vocational and technical training programs out there, with people who don't know how to communicate in that language. The other thing our veterans bring to the table are the soft skills that never show up on a resume. Every veteran that has served as a non-commissioned officer or higher was a supervisor. If they're supervisor, they're responsible for their people. They learn how to communicate. They learn how to problem solve. They learn how to basically take care of their subordinates, but that comes with the position, so it never shows up on a resume. We teach our veterans, you'll see some of the most incredible critical thinking folks, the folks who can think outside the box, because the first casualty war is always the plan. Nothing ever works the way it's supposed to. So we teach people to basically adapt to the circumstances as they come. And that's something, again, never hits a resume. A lot of people, one of the myths that we talk about is the inflexibility of the military. There are times that our military veterans can be very rigid, very structured, but most of the time they're used to somebody saying, this is your job. We want you to we want you to put trucks from point A to point B, but we're not going to tell you what the route is. You have to figure that out on your own, what the most effective route is. Critical thinking and innovative thinking. I got to see this firsthand, and it's one of those things that comes with the value of a veteran. When I was deployed to Afghanistan, we had to get a generator off the back of a flatbed truck at a forward operating location, and we didn't have a crane. So a bunch of us smart folks with college degrees stood around and tried to come up with ways that we could get a crane to a forward operating location over crappy roads, when the solution was actually when a nice 24-year-old Army sergeant with the ability to drive a bulldozer said, you just need to dig a hole and back the truck into it. We can drag the generator off. Problem solving. So we've, to kind of capitalize on this a little bit, we created skills because, again, it goes back to telling the story. That military veteran who comes in with a certain skill set knows the military language. We've complicated things. The Air Force is the best for complicating things. And 25 years Air Force, I swear there's an office in the Pentagon somewhere that does nothing but recreate acronyms just to make things more complex than they need to be. We don't have firefighters. We've got firefighting equipment systems operators, because why say in one word what you can say in four? We've got career fields that sound really fancy. My career field was logistics readiness officer, which means I'm a supply chain manager, but supply chain manager doesn't sound really, it doesn't sound pretty. It's so logistics readiness officer has more panache, but it doesn't translate to the civil sector. So we built a program in Ohio Means Jobs, which is a military skills translator, to help our veterans tell their story. A military veteran can go in there, type in their career field. They're in the Air Force, it's an Air Force specialty code, or in the Army, it's a military occupational specialty. They can type it in, and what it's going to do is it's going to spit back to them before they prepare their resume the skills that career field is built around, but it's going to put those skills out in a language that would translate onto a civil resume, something that the general public would understand. And it's also going to list the jobs that require those skills in the area, because we found our military veterans over time were very linear thinking. If we came out of the military and we were trained as an aircraft mechanic, we're thinking that the one thing that we can do is we can fix jets, which is a true statement. But the reality is, if you can fix an F-15 fighter, and I should say F-16, because we're going to have a real nice flyover this afternoon at about 2:15 this afternoon. Some of the F-16s are going to fly over the hospitals and medical care facilities in the Dayton area. But if you can fix an F-16 to put that plane in the air, you can fix a lot of different things. because you understand technical order guidance, you understand the ability to follow instructions, and you can be trained on the specific system. So we found that an aircraft mechanic who comes out of the military and thinks all I can do is fix jets can really fix a lot of different things. And Kings Island was they're the ones who made the light bulb come on for me, because they asked me to send them aircraft mechanics. And they want that because they want to fix the beast. So every time that the riders get on the beast, it scares the crap out of them, but it operates in a safe and efficient manner. Aircraft mechanics. So the long and the short of it is we've tried to find ways to support the veteran population in the state of Ohio. We've got the veterans homes to provide the long-term care for the needs of our veterans. We've got the state approval agency to help our veterans realize and tap into their benefits that are available to help them to gain the education that they may need to function in the civil side of the house. We've created programs on the workforce side of the house to help educate our employers, and we've also created programs on the employer side of the house to help put our veterans in front of them with the skills, the resumes, the interview capabilities. We want veterans to come to Ohio. We want to provide good care for them. We want to make sure that their needs are met, and we want to put them to work. So that's our program in a nutshell. I'm open to any questions you may have.
I'm going to unmute everybody so they can ask questions.
I don't know if I have any particular questions, but that was a very impressive presentation. I'm a retired Naval Reserve Supply Corps officer,
Yeah.
And I've had about a dozen years on active duty and quite a few years in federal civil service at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base. And I can relate very much to what you're doing here, and also I've worked with some fellow veterans to particularly to help them work on disabilities. That is a very challenging thing for a veteran to do, to know Title VIII of United States Code of how to write up a good veteran's claim for a disability. And anyway, I'm very happy to have joined you today.
Thank you so much. You're right on the disability side of the house. I get the opportunity every, well, when we're not in lockdown, I get to talk to the Transition Assistance Program at the base twice a month, which that's a program done 6 months to 12 months before separation from the service, which it's done military style. You effectively get a lot of information thrown at you in a very short period of time to help you transition out of the military into the civil sector. Unfortunately, it's because there's so much information in such a short period of time that a lot of times things get missed. And so we recommend, I recommend highly that folks talk to the, whether it's the VFW or whether it's Disabled American Veterans or it's the VA itself. I ask people to take advantage of those capabilities and find out, because the DAV, Disabled American Veterans, they found stuff in my medical records I'd completely forgotten about.
Mm-hmm.
Bless you.
You know, Dan, when I was in the military and was getting out, there was nothing like this out there that I knew about. It could have existed, but I didn't know about it. And so, you know, when you first get out, you're wondering what's out there. A lot of people don't realize when you leave the military after so many years and you're used to being in a set system and you're used to living a certain lifestyle, like that thing about what you said about the health insurance.
Yeah.
I can relate to that. I can relate to that. I can relate to the fact that all of a sudden, you know, now you have a job where you have no structure. For the longest, I went in financial services. For the longest, because of the way I was in the military, I wore a white shirt I was almost like a uniform, a white shirt with dark pants, and the only thing that I had or any color that changed was my tie.
Yep.
People don't think about stuff like that, but my wife told me I needed color in my life because I wouldn't wear a color shirt.
It took me about 2 years before I got away from the safe pastel shirts and the generic looking ties. It was, had no problem putting on navy blue blazer though. Yeah, the reality is we've gone a long way in helping our folks leave the military with a little bit more guidance. I mean, that 1 week to transition assistance program, it's only a week, but if everybody that leaves the program takes one nugget of wisdom out of it on how to better adjust to life outside the military, then it's still a success. It's we tell people, I mean, that's an opportunity that I get to go talk with Dr. Cassie Barlow that presents with me. She was my wing commander at Wright-Patterson, and the two of us go share some of the lessons that we learned, some cases painful lessons on things we did wrong when we left the service, thinking how we would adjust to life outside the military. So, I mean, you're talking 50 plus years of military service between the two of us, but there are many ways we were lost in the forest when we first stepped out. Programs like TAP, that helps a lot because it does make a difference for people understanding who to turn to ask about veterans benefits or who to turn to ask about disability claims.
Yes.
They have a similar program in Pennsylvania.
Every state has different levels of support to their veterans. One of the things that we learned, unfortunately, right now, all travel has been basically canceled for us. But one thing we learned last year was that there was an organization, National Association of Workforce Service Agencies, which was basically a gathering of all the state support to their veteran population to help them navigate benefits and lessons learned. We didn't know this existed. Michigan's got a very robust program to support their veteran population, which surprises me. It's when you start talking about places with no military bases, Michigan took a big hit back in the BRAC in the early 90s when they lost Wirt Smith and K.I. Sawyer Air Force bases. You've got a large training facility up there for the Army up around Grayling, if I recall, but that's memory from driving through. But Michigan does a fantastic job supporting their veterans. Kentucky is just starting to get their program rolling. I met with their first point of contact last year. She and I went and talked, and I told her these are some of the lessons learned that we found. Please steal our good ideas and find what works for your veterans. Every state does have a program, but the maturity of it and the depth of it is that varies state to state.
I tell you, this is a really good program. I love Zoom. I've been on Zoom almost every day with different organizations, and the President's Club just purchased Zoom for a year, and the newsletter went out this week. You should have received it.
Yeah, I received that.
And we provide free Zoom member organizations. So Miami Valley Military Affairs Association can use Zoom.
Oh, that's great to know because we were actually, we had our executive, one of my collateral roles. I'm the president of Miami Valley Military Affairs Association. And we've been doing stuff, taking advantage of one of our executive board members who works for Clark State and can use their meeting capability for things offline. So we've been doing our executive board meetings via telecom.
Well, this is
locked down.
The instructions were in the newsletter, so all you have to do is reserve it and use it.
Oh, fantastic! That's great to know.
Yes.
Well, thank you all so much for letting me share a little bit about the Ohio Department of Veteran Services and our workforce program. I appreciate that.
We appreciate it.
Yeah, it's really interesting. I'm going to pass this on. When I get the videotape link from Al, we'll post it on the Facebook page and send it out to everybody because, they may have grandkids or family members who are veterans now or going into service, and this is good information for them.
Now, the one thing that I found is the value of connections for our veteran population is huge. So if any of them come back to Ohio and they're looking for help, please pass my email over and let them know that I'm here to be a resource for them.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your service.
Well, thank you for yours.
Thank you. Okay, Al.
Stop the recording. Stop the
Any-
recording.
Al, you want to say anything for everybody?